Hello, welcome back or welcome. So today's video is going to be really interesting because we're talking about the style key system. And I know it's a topic that's been requested on this channel a few times. And I've been aware of the system for a while. I even bought Rita's foundations course sometime last year, but it took me a long time to actually coming around to creating this video because, to be honest, I didn't really get it fully the first time, and I don't think I was ready for it. I think it's a system that requires you to be a little bit more introspective, and it pushes you to kind of look beyond the visuals. And that's what I mean, that I don't think I was really ready for it. But with that said, this type of system might just not be your cup of tea, period. Either way, I think this is a really beautiful system that really aims to help you let go of a lot of negative emotions we have attached to style because of rules and expectations, the judgment, the vanity. So I'd like to call this a very pure-hearted system. So I'm going to walk you through my thought process today. I'll explain the system as I understand it. We'll talk about some of the pros and the challenges that I see with the system, how I ended up finding my quadrant, and the areas that I initially found confusing, and hopefully that could help you as well if you are confused about where you belong in this system. And I'll also talk about the most important takeaways that I got from this system. So I think this is going to be a bit of a longer video, probably a lot less visual than my usual content and more conceptual, but I think it's also going to be a bit more of a conversational type of video. To give you a brief intro about the system and what it's about, it's called the Style Key System, and it's created by this person named Rita, and she also has her own YouTube channel called Style Thoughts by Rita. And I really think it's a deeper way to looking at personal style because it's about looking beyond the aesthetic and trying to understand my own thought process when it comes to getting dressed and trying to make sense of how I put outfits together and what's the most important for me. So Rita calls this the style logic. And according to her, having a good sense of style is not just about knowing what looks good and wearing that, but it's about the intention behind it. And this intention can be different for people depending on what our priorities are. And our priorities are based on our essence, which is our personal energy or the overall impression that we give off about like who we are as people. So it doesn't really have much to do with your appearance, but it's with the overall energy of the person. Although I don't know if you can completely separate the two. So there's two main criteria when it comes to finding our essence. There's the left versus right and up versus down essences. And depending on where you would locate yourself along the spectrum of these two axes, you would then naturally fall into one of the four quadrants between left up, left down, right up, and right down. And Rita gives each of these quadrants a name derived from gemstones. So here's how I understand the essences. If we're starting with left versus right, if you have the left essence, then you have your own inner world and you have this desire to show your inner world and to be true to it. So because of this desire, your style should be guided by your inner impulse, and the inspiration needs to come from within rather than from external factors like what is the occasion that I'm dressing for, or what are other people wearing to this occasion, etc. Some of the keywords for the left essence are intriguing, enveloping, sensual, elemental, and this essence is all about capturing the attention inwards and evoking curiosity and mystery. So how I understand it is that it's a very like inward moving energy, like you're drawing in. And then on the flip side, the right essence is the opposite of a more outward energy. So people with the right essence tend to come across as more expressive, giving, shining, and they also have a desire, and the desire for them is to make a connection to the outside world and to show that connection. So their style inspiration should come from external factors like where am I going, or how do I connect to my environment and find my place in it? So because of this focus on connection, style really needs to make sense visually for people with the right essence, and harmony is a very big keyword for them. Some of the other keywords for the right essence are radiant, dreamy, refined, and luminous. And a sense of belonging is a very big part of their essence. And then there's also the up versus down essences, and Rita explains this as having either a high or a low energetic barrier. So if you have the up essence, then you tend to come across as more impressive, and this isn't really about how successful you appear, but it's more just about like you tend to make a stronger impression on people, and you also tend to be more evocative of reaction from people, and naturally there is a distance created for you. So this is quite the opposite from having an open or approachable energy. But this has nothing to do with your personality or how loud or quiet you are. It's just more of an overall impression that you naturally give off. So because of this natural distance that's created, people with the up essence tend to use style as an armor. So they kind of let style speak on their behalf, so they don't have to do the explaining. And having a higher energetic barrier naturally translates to you being drawn to bolder and more extravagant styles. You like glamour, you don't mind putting effort into your style, and that also translates to you enjoying a little bit of attention, which there's nothing wrong with that. And then on the flip side, if you have the down essence, then you have a low energetic barrier. So naturally you come across as more open and approachable and inviting. And again, this has nothing to do with how friendly you are as a person. You can be a quiet and reserved person, but still have a low energetic barrier naturally. And this really creates more comfort for people around you. And opposite to the up essence, there is a lack of distance. So people might get a sense of entitlement or access to you even if they don't really know you. And having a low energetic barrier naturally means you're more sensitive and delicate to style because you're easily overwhelmed by feeling like you're doing too much with what you're wearing or feeling like you're wearing something that's very costumey. So finding a balance of a self-expression without feeling excessive is a very important aspect for people with the down essence. So that's how I understand the essences, and finding your essence is the first step in the style key system. So there's 3 steps. The first step is understanding your essence so you can identify your quadrant, and that's going to naturally lead to the second step, which is understanding your style logic. So that process of getting dressed for you in terms of where to start, what to focus on, etc. And then the third and the last step is the visual aesthetics. So this is where you figure out, what are the specific styles I'm drawn to, what colors do I want to use, what colors look harmonious, like color analysis, anything like Kibbe, Kitchener. Pretty much any sort of a style system with a visual component would fall into this third step of figuring out the visual aesthetics. And this third step is kind of everything that a lot of us normally like to focus on when we're trying to define or improve our style. So the system really invites you to look deeper beyond the aesthetics, and it tells you to really understand your own mental process first before diving into the aesthetics part. The style roots system that's developed by Ellie Jean Broyden, I think that's also a system that falls into this visual aesthetics part. I know it's a system that tries to differentiate between what looks good on me physically versus what I actually like and what I'm drawn to, but preference is also based on some sort of a visual, right? Like the 8 style roots have pretty distinct visual components attached to them. And that's why I said that the style root system still belongs to this last step of figuring out the visual aesthetics part. But because this system is also based on your preferences, I do think that it can maybe give some clues about your essence, since what you're naturally drawn to probably has to do with who you are as a person. So the way I envision this is I'm going to walk you through the first 2 steps of understanding your essence and understanding your style logic today in this video. And then in the next video, we're going to dive into the style root system to figure out that 3rd step of the visual aesthetics part. And I'm hoping that that will give a holistic picture of how the 2 systems can actually be used together. And I'm thinking it's going to be a 2-episode series, but maybe there will be more. Before I jump to talking about how I found my quadrant, I want to first talk about the beauty of this system and the challenges that I see, because I think that's going to help with understanding how the system works. So I think the first beauty that I see with this system is Rita herself. She seems to be someone that really embodies this inspiring energy, and she exemplifies the right essence quite well in that sense, because the right essence is called the sun, and she really seems like this person that shines her light and this like expressive and giving, inspiring person. I obviously don't know anything about her other than how she presents herself in her videos, but that's the vibe that I get. And her quadrant is right and up. So that means that her style is quite extravagant. You can tell that she puts in a lot of effort with her style. She does a lot with her style in terms of jewelry, makeup, etc. So in that sense, I find her style to be very authentic and genuine to her. And that makes her a really good role model to teach this system, right? Because the system is really about dressing in no other way but as your authentic self. I think it's ironic that I call her a good role model, because role model is actually one of the right up archetypes. And I obviously don't know what her archetype is, but I think it's interesting how I can kind of naturally see her fit into her quadrant. Another thing that I really like about this system is that it's not about aesthetics at all. So it's completely judgment free. And Rita really tries to give permission and invitation in a lot of her videos to get rid of all of this shame we have around the visual component of style. One thing she said that really stuck with me is she said, "You don't owe anybody any emotional experience by the way you choose to dress." And I think that's such a beautiful message. And it really encourages us to shake off all of these rules and expectations we have around how we're supposed to be dressing, the fear of judgment, of what people are going to say about my outfits, and just a general anxiety that we have around style because we're so fixated on getting it right or getting that perfect outfit. But perfectionism is truly the enemy of progress, and I think that Rita really tries to instill that message in a lot of her content. So in that sense, this is a very introspective system, I think, and it feels like therapy. Like, it truly feels like style therapy. And that leads nicely into talking about some of the challenges that I see with the system. With the first being, therapy itself can be a challenge, right? Like, you need to want to understand yourself more, and you need to want to do the inner work for it to be actually effective. Like, it's one of the reasons why I stopped myself from going to therapy. It's because after a while, I just felt like I was really going through the motions without a clear expectation of what I wanted to achieve from it. So if you see this as just another typing system that's supposed to help you become a better dresser, I think it's important to set clearer intentions about, like, what does better dressed actually mean for you? Is it about just looking more put together, or is there something deeper there? And I think this is exactly what happened to me the first time I reviewed this system. The reason why I felt like I didn't really get it is because I didn't have those clear intentions. Also, the adjectives that describe each of these essences and the archetype names, I feel like they're very endearing and encouraging and even empowering words when you hear it from a third person perspective. Like when Rita describes these essences, they all sound really, really great. But I personally found it a bit difficult to identify with them myself. And this is especially knowing that I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you on this video, and there's literally going to be thousands of you watching this video, listening to me say like, oh yeah, I totally relate to the trendsetter archetype, or oh, I'm the siren or the seductress or the role model. I feel like there's just a bit of embarrassment around saying that. Like, am I truly being objective or am I being delusional? What actually made me feel a bit more ready this time around is my recent interest into the Enneagram. And for those of you that don't know what Enneagram is, it's a typing system about why we behave the way we do based on our core desires and fears. And I know this sounds a little bit like another like personality type test, but personality is actually only the byproduct of your Enneagram type, and it's more so supposed to explain like what drives your behavior and why you do things you do. And I saw some parallels between the Enneagram and the style key system, because the Enneagram talks about ego versus essence. So your essence is who you truly are, and ego is that's pretty much the personality, is who we become because of all of these external factors that we experience through life. And finding our Enneagram type is finding our way back to our essence so that we can understand ourselves better and live a more aligned life. And the style key system is also about the essence. It's about like who I am and my personal energy and gift. And we drift away from that because of external factors like rules and expectations around how we're supposed to dress, the fear of judgment, the shame. So the style key is your key to unlocking your authentic style by finding your true essence. So that's where I saw a bit of parallels between the two, even though they're not related to each other at all. And that's what just made me feel a little bit more ready this time around, I guess. I just got a bit more practice with a similar process because of the Enneagram. And once I started seeing the style key system as just another way to understand myself better, I think things started to click more. I also think that the lack of visual examples you can relate to kind of makes this system a bit challenging, because it deliberately tells you not to focus on the visuals while you're trying to figure out your essence and your style logic. And then there's all these examples of people that fall into the same quadrant but have like vastly different aesthetics. So it's just a little bit confusing when you're first getting into the system. And when you take the visual component out of style, it just becomes extremely abstract and difficult to understand. Like at this point, it feels more like psychology than style itself. I do think the archetypes are somewhat helpful, but again, the examples with the celebrities are kind of hard to relate to. So I think a wider variety of like real life examples would be more helpful in understanding like how all these vastly different aesthetics can still belong to the same quadrant or the same archetypes. And it looks like they have this Reddit community where people post their outfit photos, and that could be a good resource. I particularly like their rule around no unsolicited feedback, because sometimes I wish that YouTube had the same rule. Okay, I know that was a lot already, but I just really wanted to give a thorough overview of this system because I think it'd be helpful in moving past the surface level. So now I'm gonna finally talk about how I identified myself within this system. And between the left and the right essence, I think this was a pretty easy question for me, and there wasn't much confusion around it. I think I'm a pretty clear left. But one of the confusing ways I thought to differentiate left versus the right essence were phrases like the desire to be true to myself and my inner world, the desire for the freedom to be, to feel grounded within oneself. Like, I feel like that's something that everyone sort of wants. Like, we all want confidence and authenticity, and feeling comfortable in our own skin is such a basic core desire. And the same thing with how the right essence can be described as being influenced by the external environment. Everyone has to dress for their environment and situation to some context. Like, we have to adhere to certain dress codes. We obviously have to dress for the weather. We're influenced by trends whether we like it or not. So I feel like everyone can kind of relate to some levels of both the left and the right essence experiences, and I found it more beneficial to just think about it beyond the necessities. Like, yes, I think about the external factors, but do they actually inspire me? And yes, I want to be true to myself, but is making connections with the environment and being inspired by my role, is that something important to me? Like, do I care about these things beyond the basic needs? Because for me, my role in the environment is probably the least important priority when it comes to how I dress. To tell you a story, when I got my first corporate job out of university, I think within the first 3 weeks, I knew that I had made a mistake. I knew this was the wrong path for me, and it put me in this really depressive state of mind, just thinking about how this is going to be my life until I'm 65 and it's doomed. So I actually put a lot of my resources and effort into like getting dressed each morning, because that was literally the most exciting part of my day, and I knew the rest of my day was just going to be so dreadful. And I truly dressed outside of the norm in terms of what was expected in that company that I worked for. And looking back, that was my way of being true to myself and my inner world. Like, I felt that this is so wrong and I needed to show it somehow. So I intentionally dressed to make myself feel like the outsider and a misfit. So that's sort of how I used my style to express something about my inner state, I think. But I don't know, like, if you have the right essence, if you know for sure that you have the right essence, maybe you can tell me how you would have dressed for a job that you hated. Let me know in the comments. I would love to understand the difference in the thought processes. And then with the aesthetics that I'm naturally drawn to, I like edgy, sensual, unexpected styles, and that kind of covers the intriguing aspect of the left essence. I also like things that are more raw and sort of unpolished, and that could be the elemental aspect of the left essence. And my love for my oversized clothes, even though some of you guys hate it, I literally feel like that's like my way of cocooning, and that is the enveloping aspect of the left essence. Even making a connection to my 3 style words from Alison Bornstein's 3-word method, my practical word is comfortable, and I think that has to do with the sensory aspect of clothing and how clothes sit on my body. And that is apparently an important left essence trait. Like, how clothes feel physically is very important. So that could be another indicator. I also found the shadow states to be somewhat helpful. There is the Lost Girl, which is the shadow state for the left essence, and the Ice Queen, which is the shadow state for the right essence. And Rita gives some pop culture examples of the different types of the Lost Girl and the Ice Queen modes. So there's the harmful minimalist, harmful maximalist, and also harmful conformist. And as I'm listening to all of these different modes of the shadow states, honestly, I could kind of relate to all of them to some degree, but I noticed that the harmful maximalist only exists for the Lost Girl and not for the Ice Queen. So maybe if that's something you can find relatable, that could be an indicator that your essence leans more left than right. That was the case for me. Now, between the up and the down essence is what I found to be more difficult in terms of identifying myself, because I've been told on multiple occasions that I am both intimidating and approachable, obviously by different people, but I'm just not sure about how high or low my energetic barrier is. But if I'm speaking just based on experience, with the up essence, the phrase using style as an armor is something that I can really relate to, especially throughout my teenage years and with like my first corporate job. I feel like I've always sort of used style as something that speaks for me. But then the down essence is also something I relate more to my current state, because style has become a lot more about my own comfort and my own enjoyment, and style needs to feel right for me rather than say something about me at this point. Again, thinking about my 3 style words, my practical word comfortable, it can be related to the sensory needs, but it can also be related to the word ease, which is a down essence keyword. And my second word, the aspirational word, is minimal. I just kind of like no fuss with my style, and I think that is a very down essence trait. And then my third word, the emotional word, is rebellious, and I think that could be related to the left essence, sort of with the mystery and the darkness and edge, but also with the up essence, because why do I want to feel rebellious? To me, being rebellious means having the courage to do something different, and that can be a pretty intense emotion, right? And in that sense, I think it could be related to the up essence more so than the down essence. So I had a really difficult time trying to decide between the up and the down essence for myself. My gut reaction tells me that I lean more up than down, but the more videos I watched, the more confused I got. And even going through the archetypes for both left up and left down, I could kind of relate to both. With the up archetypes, I related to the enigma. So examples for this archetype include Zoe Kravitz, Emma Corrin, and Billie Eilish. And among the down archetypes, I could relate to the cool girl. And some examples in this archetype are Selena Gomez, Ciara, and Kate Moss. So looking through the archetypes didn't really help. I couldn't really differentiate between styles that I'm just naturally drawn to and that I like, because Kate Moss and Zoe Kravitz, like, I love both of their styles so much. So I couldn't tell if it's just their style I liked or if these are actual archetypes that I can see myself in. So the archetypes were somewhat helpful in narrowing down like where along the spectrum I could be. But what I actually found more helpful is looking at one of my own outfits and trying to think in both ways of the style logic for left up and left down. So when I was going through this exercise, I was actually wearing this long black maxi skirt with an open back t-shirt. I was wearing my mesh flats and this sort of leather-like necklace that had a little pearl pendant on it. And the common trait for the left essence is that your sensory needs have to be met. And I was feeling really, really comfortable in this maxi skirt. The t-shirt was somewhat form-fitting, but the fabric felt really soft against my skin, and the open back felt really airy to me, and that was kind of contrasting with the skirt that was pretty much hiding my entire lower body. Now, the main difference in logic between the up and the down essences are, do you want to communicate or do you want to feel? So with the up essence, I want to communicate something about my inner world through my style. And with the down essence, I want to feel something about my inner world through my style. So if I was looking at this outfit from a left up logic perspective, I'd say that the all black outfit just creates a level of intimidation. The open back is quite unexpected, so that's a way of adding a visual impact. And the all slim silhouette between the form-fitting shirt and the skirt and the slim shoes, that can be interpreted as a sense of effort. And the maxi skirt is really long and it's quite overwhelming on my frame. That with the big sunglasses adds a level of drama to the look. And then if I were to look at the same outfit from a left down logic perspective, I would say that the open back and the mesh flats make me feel sensual. There's definitely a balance going on between some parts of my body being exposed and some parts being covered, with the open back versus the maxi skirt. So there is a balance between sensual and enveloping energies there. And then with the sunglasses, they make me feel supported because it covers my face and my eyes. So if I'm sort of in an anti-social mood, let's say, then the sunglasses really help me hide. For me, instinctually, I resonate more with the left up essence because I feel like my priority is on the visual impact and the interest of the outfit. And that's sort of what led me to buy this shirt in the first place. So once my basic sensory needs are met, I feel like the emotional needs are fulfilled by making a visual communication of sort of that intimidating vibe and the drama of the look. With the left down logic, the emotional needs would be fulfilled by meeting how I want to feel in my outfit. And I feel like that's not really a question that comes as intuitive for me, but I wondered if it's because I'm just so accustomed to thinking about my outfits in a visual way, because I could still relate to the logic in a sense. So this was an exercise that I tried to see where I would fit between the left up and the left down quadrants. And maybe if you're struggling, you could try the same exercise and use that as a hint. So bottom line is, I think I'm left up, but I might be a left down. My instincts tell me that I'm more left up, but there's also a part of me that tells me that I'm left down. I'm left for sure. That's all I know. But that's not what's important for this system, in my opinion. For me, the point and the biggest takeaway is overcoming the challenges. The objective of this system is to dress authentically according to our personal energy and the gift of our own unique thought process. And to get to that objective, we have to overcome challenges. And these challenges for each of the quadrants are worded and perceived a bit differently. But I think at the end of the day, they all have the same root cause. Challenges like detaching from expectations, focusing only on approval, doubting myself, analysis paralysis, the perfectionist trap, all of these challenges at their core are linked to a sense of shame and a sense of belonging. And I think that's why it got more confusing for me as I listened to all of the 4 types. I thought it would help me narrow down my quadrant more, but I just started relating to all of the 4 types to some degree, and especially when I came to the challenges and the struggles part. And I think it's because all of these challenges just have the same root cause at the end of the day. And overcoming these challenges requires a lot of introspection and also requires a lot of courage, which I think is such a major part of going through this system. I might even dare to say that your type doesn't matter as much, especially at the beginning, because you first have to get all of these barriers down. Obviously, I haven't overcome all of my challenges, I'm working on it. But I also think it's a never-ending task. But I think the system just provides such an inspiring invitation. Wouldn't it be so great to let go of all of these negative emotions and truly have fun with our style? And that's why I titled this video the way I did, and that's why I call this system pure-hearted, because when you use it effectively, I think the outcome and what you can gain from it sounds pretty amazing. So I'm going to continue my journey working with the system and trying to narrow down my quadrant and my archetype. I've signed up for the Style Key Adventure, which is just a series of emails you receive with some exercises that are supposed to help you figure out your style key. Again, there's the Reddit page I talked about. There's a Discord community. So both of these can be used as resources. And I really do like the rule of no unsolicited feedback. I mean, I know a thing or two about unsolicited feedback living in this YouTube world, and I always find it a little bit surprising to see what people feel entitled to say. So my conclusion on this system is that I think it's really cool. It's very idealistic, and it's what makes it beautiful. So I'm excited to dive into it deeper. I hope you found the video helpful, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.